Well, welcome back to episode 152 of Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck. And I'm your host, Alana.
And I'm Kelsey.
And we are back, bitches and witches. No, we have been back. We recorded one other one, but
It's been a while ago, so we're like, are we back again?
we haven't posted it yet. Who knows what's gonna happen? We're just talking about
Yeah.
all these technical glitches and things we have to go through. So, we'll just hope it comes out. But
Yeah, if
it's,
not, we'll post and let you guys know that we're trying. We are
it
we are
happens
trying.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, hopefully it's like we are back. You had a good June. Happy Pride Month. And now we're on to July. Holy shit, I guess.
Right? It's wild.
It's like the summer's gonna go. But yeah, I hope you guys are having a good time and we'll kind of get back into it and maybe have some surprise appearances we can offer to you guys in this summer where you never know where we
Yeah.
were on our hiatus.
Yeah, what we were doing.
Whose show we were on. Just trying to get out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I was just telling you about taking Rain to get her wisdom teeth out today, so it's been a long day, so I apologize. I'm already started drinking when I came home because I had the day off and I was like, I
I
had to call
honestly
insurance companies. Millennials having to call people? I am sorry. I am
the
ready.
anxiety and just the
Yeah, let me crawl
yeah.
back into my hermit hole, please.
Right?
And just
Yeah.
talk to you guys who I love.
Yeah, we'll talk at you.
Hello, hello. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah. Hope y'all are having a good summer. I think we are. I was glad I said to Kelsey that I'm glad we decided brought up or whatever that we were going to take some
Yeah.
time off because we've had some changes going on like with the pod, and then I've also had some stuff going on like just with me a little bit and trying to like fix things and do other things. So it's been like nice to have a reprieve.
Gordo interrupt us. Gordo. Jesus.
God damn it. Should we get down to
Buddy.
business? And Gordo was like, no.
I want attention. Lay down. Lay
He
down.
was really
I'm
good, I must say, when
busy.
we did a little guest
Yeah.
appearance, which will come out and we'll let you know about soon. But I was surprised he didn't start meowing. We're guesting on the other
Yeah.
pod.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you'll hear it. Maybe if you're wearing headphones, but he's purring. He's not super close to the mic,
uh,
but we'll see.
I didn't pick it up, I don't think, this time, but like,
Okay.
he's like,
But
no, I'm good.
I can pet him with one arm. I just need one hand to scroll through my notes on my laptop. But
This is true.
um
What else?
we're back.
Anything else exciting happened with you this week? I don't even know anymore. I'm like, what have we been up to? Where did June go? By the time this is coming out, it's
Right? It
over.
is flown by. This is like the fastest month in existence. It was like 2 days long. And
We don't have to post for the podcast. Oh, boom, zooms by.
yeah, it's just like, God damn it.
No, totally. Because I was like, I have been like slacking, like just taking so much time working on my notes. I feel like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How do we do this every week? It took us
I
like three
don't
weeks
know.
to prepare for this episode. And it's like, how do we do this week to week anymore?
I almost thought that's the only way we could get a guest appearance in on somebody else or have someone
Yeah,
on is like when we
it
have
would be
like some
very
extra weeks
hard.
off. Yeah, we always feel
Yeah.
like we're trying to catch up.
Yeah. But
But yeah, it's my
um
life has felt a little hectic lately, but it's everything's good. It's just like
yeah.
you're like, wow, I have to like figure some shit out so I don't like go bankrupt or whatever. Because we're fine. Everything's fine.
Donate to Patreon.
Exactly. Oh my god, did just read a cute book where it was all in Las Vegas. I don't know why that made me think of it. Because like I'm gambling all my money away. No, I'm not. But
I was gonna say, you have something to tell me?
no, I just haven't had to. Yeah, that's. I have so many things because I haven't got to talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but this one was The Princess of Las Vegas, and been really enjoying this author that wrote it, and his name is like Chris. I want to say Bojalian, maybe how you pronounce it. And yeah, there was like that one, and this one's kind of about a late. It's Princess of like Las Vegas because she's like a Lady Di impersonator that works in Las Vegas.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and she has a sister that looks like her, and you know, some things happen, and you know, chaos ensues. Um, but yeah, they're actually pretty good. So that would be a good book recommendation for some of you that need a summer read. As I've been like going back to the online library and being like, what other books does he have? Ooh, one called
Yeah.
Sleepwalker. Ooh, one called The Flight Attendant that was made into a couple series with a show with Kaylee Cuoco. However you
Oh,
say
from
that.
Big Bang? Yeah, I
That
think I heard
one,
of that
yeah.
show. I didn't watch it, but I heard of it.
Oh, apparently like stopped after 2 seasons, so I'm like don't know if it's worth time investing, but I will probably read the book.
Yeah, the book's probably better.
Probably it's like something
Uh,
like she wakes up alone in the hotel room as a flight attendant and with a dead body by her or something. So it's like, okay, you kind of want to know
Creepy.
what happened there.
Murder
Yeah.
mystery-ish. Gordo, I need you to stay in your designated area. I'm gonna put tape on the desk and make him not pass it. Like you're over the
Sit on
tape.
your mark. Stage
Yeah,
left.
you're over your line. Buddy, stay over there. Okay. Well. Hey, don't bite me. That actually hurt.
Dickhead. Oops.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
we have should be interesting episode. I think we both said our cases are both kind of different.
I and I,
Surprisingly, you're not
I was
getting
gonna
any
say,
attention. Fuck right off.
Gordo, stop taking the limelight. Yeah, anything we post after we've had changes with the podcasting shit, it's like, who knows what it's gonna seem like. Hopefully the episode is amazing, but
Yeah,
I have no idea what I'm doing
there's no
half the
way to
time.
know. Uh,
No. I've put episodes half out when I'm like, oops, I guess I said to put that out on 12:05 a.m. Thursday instead of Friday by accident. Like you're like, oh
yeah.
my god. I'm not licensed to podcast or kill.
Yeah.
Ugh. All right.
Well,
Gordo McGorderson,
yeah,
sit
he
down.
left. He has left the building. Um, we can get
Gordo
down to it.
Elvis has left the chat.
Yeah. Uh, I have a tale. Uh,
Ooh.
kind of stuck out to me. I don't remember really hearing about it before. Uh,
Nice.
but I think it's fairly popular because when I was researching it, it seemed like it had there was like quite a few comments about it, not necessarily like articles that I could read about it, but
Sure.
like people, I guess, covering it. It was quite a few because it has some controversy around it. Uh,
Damn. But no movie
yeah.
yet?
Honestly, I think there might be something sort of based on it,
Oh.
but I'm not really sure. I can't remember what the movie is called, and it wasn't actually like explicitly
Yeah.
said in any of the things I read because all the
Okay.
sources are quite old and there's no updates at all.
Ooh.
So I don't know. I'd have to like try and figure out which movie it is. I think it might be, and we're like kind of partially inspired by, and try and maybe look up
Yeah.
that instead and see if they talk about this case. But
That's intriguing.
Yeah. This is
Little PI
surrounding,
work for
right?
our
Got a
internet
sleuth.
sleuths. Yeah.
Yeah. This case is most often just referred to as the exorcism of Gina, 1991. Like when you type that in,
Oh.
how it is. We don't have a last name.
Yeah, that's
Um,
unusual. It's not Emily Rose or Annalise Michelle or
yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
hmm
Huh.
Just we have Gina, and then we have the year. So it came about that April 4th, 1991, marked one of the most watched episodes in the history of the television program, or like ABC popular news show 2020, which I'm sure most people will know
Okay.
about. So they kind of did like half an hour episodes, like different segments where they kind of do like an investigation about it.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's about like, oh, like I remember as a kid watching an episode that was about like car dealerships scamming you. So they had somebody go undercover that was like
Oh my
pretending
gosh.
and like recording themselves, and they were pretending that they were gonna buy a car, and like how the salesman treated them,
Hmm.
or like that kind of stuff, or was caught lying to them or breaking the law, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, or other true crime for sure. Crazy.
Yeah, they did this episode. It was April 4th, 1991, and they released this program with an estimated audience of about 29 people that tuned in live to watch the episode, which actually was marketed as a real life exorcism of a 16-year-old girl identified only as Gina. Um,
But why was it only broadcast to like 30 people?
no, there 29 million people tuned in.
Oh, I literally heard
Yeah,
29. I was like,
no,
okay.
29 million people tuned in. Yeah, because
Well,
it's
that's
ABC's
different.
like um most watched episode ever in their history still, even
Wow.
today.
Holy
Yeah.
shit. I
Yeah.
can imagine. I mean, like, come on. Pre good internet, we were like, we don't know
Yeah,
nothing. We
and
can't look it up.
like the Exorcist movie had only come out a few years before. And people didn't
Right?
really understand what exorcisms were about, but they were starting to kind of show up in the news and starting to happen. Um, so yeah, people were really
Or-
intrigued by this program when they
I
saw
can
it.
see that.
Yeah.
They're at least wondering about it because they're like,
Yeah.
exorcisms. You're like, yeah, they've been around for a while if you actually look at them. Like, because we
Yeah.
found out they've been around
Hundreds of
for
years.
like hundreds of years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, by the way, we should probably update that doctrine because it's been like 300 years since the first
Yeah.
like, exorcism. You're like, "Oh, yeah, maybe. I can't remember what episode we talked about that, but I thought about that during the research and was like, damn, look at us learning things.
Right? Yeah, I can't remember.
One of
I
the
think it was
like,
probably our other possession episode we did.
yeah, we had this episode as possessed and a few other like really
Yeah.
Halloweeny themed episodes that I really enjoyed. Yeah.
Yeah. So Gina and what we know about her, because there's not a lot of information out there. Everything kind of
Okay.
basically says the same thing. She had been seeing things, speaking in voices that were not her own. So like the kind of what
Oh,
you imagine, like the raspy voices and different languages, that kind of stuff is going on.
and like dirty
Um,
talk.
yeah, it didn't really seem like it, but the
Yeah.
from what I remember on the program, they said that um she did make reference to a couple things about other like um exorcisms or something that had happened like a week
Oh.
before that she shouldn't have had any prior knowledge of, and she like apparently gave a
Oh.
pretty detailed description of it, so that kind of threw the priests
Huh.
for a loop. They didn't really know what to do about
Yeah.
that, but
That
yeah.
yeah. That's pretty paranormal. Unless you're
Yeah.
like, Jesus gave her the visions or whatever.
So, she. Oh, it also said that she apparently saw people that had passed away or died. And for years, she had had a history of violent seizures during which she would spit, scream, and reportedly had visions of demons.
Oh.
Leading up to the exorcism that was filmed, she had not attended school for several months. Her mother had taken her to a psychic healer and reported that um, after seeing the psychic healer, Gina's behavior had gotten worse.
Oh.
Um, yeah,
Okay.
uh, fairly recent to the exorcism, she had spent 2 months in a children's psychiatric ward and had been diagnosed as having reoccurring psychotic episodes. And they did give her like medication, but they kind of said it never really took and was still having a lot of problems with that. And she ended
Hmm.
up getting discharged.
Yeah, they're trying to probably treat a mental problem at the time that they just don't have the scope to treat properly.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
1991. I don't think still today, they don't necessarily understand anything to the extent that they should, let alone where they were at in 1990s. So,
Right. I was gonna
yeah.
ask you again what the year was, but thank you. Because now I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's modern, but yeah, it's not
Yeah.
today.
No.
That's true. Okay.
They did say like she kind of got better in the hospital, but every time she would get released, like she would kind of
Hmm.
backslide. So like treatment would stop working, medications would stop working, and she'd get worse
Mm.
again. And her mother ended up turning to the church for help.
Okay.
Leading up to the exorcism, there were psychiatrists who were part of the team from the church that evaluated Gina and did ultimately come to the conclusion that she or ended up ultimately approving her to receive an exorcism after months of investigation. Some things said
Wow.
like up to 6 months. They like interviewed and talked with her and tried to work with her with different psychiatrists and everything. So it wasn't like a
Huh.
short thing. Like they did see her many, many, many times over months um,
Wow.
before it was approved. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they're pretty strict with the Catholic Church, though.
Yeah. I think they were pretty careful, I'd say, with this
Hmm.
one, but there's still a lot of controversy with it, with um, like
Controversy.
it being
Sorry, I heard a
filmed and then
British baby.
it being filmed and then it being like broadcast on TV and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a lot of exposure for sure. Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so going into what happens during the exorcism, there's a pair of Catholic priests who presided over it. It did take place at a Florida convent and allegedly lasted for about 6 hours, with the footage ultimately
Wow.
being edited down to fit within the show's like 30-minute time slot.
Of course.
Um, One of the priests is only referred to as Father A, like the letter A, and the other one
Mm.
is named as Reverend James J. Labar, uh, who also has kind of controversy surrounding him. He had previously appeared on the controversial 1988 Geraldo Rivera special, Devil Worship Exposing Satan's Underground, which is the special I talked about
No.
in the
Satanic
music,
Panic.
the Satanic Panic episode. It's the
Oh my
same
god.
documentary. So I was like,
That
ooh,
Ozzy
tie in.
Osbourne. Sorry. Yeah, Ozzy Osbourne. I think he was in that one.
I don't know. I didn't watch it
Oh my
actually, but
god.
yeah, apparently the reverend that presides over one of the reverends that presides over the exorcism was part of that
Oh
documentary.
my god.
Um,
Yeah, no, I
and
remember that. Like, I remember that coming up in our notes.
yeah,
That's crazy. I love it when it
so
circles back to
right,
something
I
we
was like,
know.
ooh, uh, Reverend Labar, Kiddo, fuck off.
Reverend
Uh,
Meow.
yeah. Labar also authored a 1989 book called Cults, Sects, and the New Age.
Ooh,
Okay, fun. Uh,
sexy.
right. Sexy sects.
Hopefully, or
That's hard
yeah,
to
either
say.
that or it's so boring and brainwashing. It's like one of the two, I'm
It's
sure.
probably the most boring. Might as well read a textbook, I'm sure.
Oh no. And I
Yeah.
love to read, but there's some shit you just can't get through.
Yeah, right.
Oh my. We'll see that in
Le-
my segment too. Ooh,
Labar had
spoiler.
reportedly conducted a 6-month investigation, as I talked about, and determined that Gina, who had previously been hospitalized for psychotic episodes, was in fact possessed. So
Oh,
during
okay.
the exorcism, Gina growls. They at one point they're like trying to physically restrain her themselves, like her mom and I
Mm-hmm.
think a couple women that are there, and she kind of they feared like she's gonna hurt herself or hurt somebody else. She's not like struggling too
Oh.
bad, but they decide to restrain her to this chair that she's sitting in.
Oh
So they
no.
do that. She's like cursing at the priests. She's speaking in tongues and
Excuse me.
apparently different languages.
Oh damn.
And Gina reveals to the priest that she is being possessed by 10 different entities, which is crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Are they all trying to talk at
Hmm.
once? Oh
I'm
my
not too
gosh.
sure. They only end up identifying two of them.
Oh, okay. That's interesting though. Like,
Labar later
yeah.
claimed that Gina might have levitated to the ceiling if she had not been tied down during the exorcism. Wanted to put that statement in there because it's like,
Well,
okay.
like, I mean, that's typically kind of what you can hear of happening if you're having an out of body experience. So I don't know why he's like
Yeah,
bringing it up if no one specifically mentioned it, because I do believe that can happen. So I don't
yeah.
know. That's
Um,
weird.
I think it was when they were like setting it up, they were like kind of clearing the room, and the one like nun or whatever, one of
Yeah.
the women that was gonna be in the room, she was like, "Oh yeah, I have to take like the paintings off the wall. I have to get rid of all the cushions, like all the throw pillows, all the lamps, anything that Gina could grab and throw because she has thrown
Mm.
everything in this room multiple times before." I was kind of like, "Oh, that's not great." Um, but
You have to toddler proof the room, yeah.
yeah, that's what I thought of. She's like, "I'm just placing these over here." Like, okay.
Just put her in the demon playpen. We'll go from there. Oh
But
my god.
ultimately, the ritual or exorcism is deemed a success, with two of the entities, Zion and I think it was Minga,
Ooh.
having been cast out. And Gina says she feels much better at the end. Um, I can play part of the exorcism because it is the whole episode is on
Ooh.
YouTube. I did watch the whole episode. I mean, it's
Really?
not the most interesting thing. A lot, I'd say 80% of it is them just talking. Barbara Walters is in it. If you don't remember her from The
Barbara
View,
Wawa. No, that's
yeah,
just what they
she's
call her.
um yeah. So they have a lot of like ooh like just cliche spooky music and like
Yeah.
slide pictures of satanic symbols, and they're like, ah, the devil walks among us. It's the early 90s. So
Of course. It's
yeah.
probably Satan.
Yeah. Gordo, for fuck's sakes. Okay, hold on. I have to kick him out.
Okay. Meow. Oh, Gordo. I have advice for Gordo. Gordo, figure out your shit before we start talking,
Yeah.
and then we have to kick you out of the room.
Oh, that's 7 minutes long. Nope. Stupid ads. Go away.
Oh, for the YouTube video, yeah. They're annoying.
And this is 2020. I gotta
The
skip
year
to
of the
like,
Lord.
oh, this might be Oh yeah,
2020
here's part of it.
BC.
Father A tries to draw the demons out. He gives Gina a glass of holy water, hoping to provoke a response. Before making the final decision to begin the rite of exorcism, he probes her psyche, identifying exactly what demons he's confronting.
Tell me, Gina,
Ooh.
you can tell me what you feel.
Can you hear it okay?
At this point, things
Yeah.
are moving along
That's
rather
good.
slowly. The devil plays a great game of deception and will not reveal itself or themselves for quite a period of time.
Let it be a
The
sign of
devil is
protection
hiding.
for us.
Okay.
But
Let's
then
see.
something does happen. Gina begins retching,
Strength.
and as the pre-exorcism examination intensifies, unexpectedly, low and unfamiliar
Gina.
voices begin to emerge.
Gina said to me, I have to go.
Ew. Why did Gina say that to them? They had to go.
Yeah.
I don't.
Saying I don't
The
want to go.
pre-examination thing was just giving me flashbacks to the insurance quote I had to get earlier for Rain's Wisdom.
Yeah.
We need the predetermination estimate.
Yeah.
Please don't hold me hostage
was
in
meant
your
your
room
only son to
anymore.
This world in order that
Okay.
you might crush this roaring lion.
Father A reads the sacred Roman Catholic rite of exorcism.
Show your terror, Lord, over the
This sounds so BBC
Yeah, but-
official.
It also could
Right?
be a prelude to levitation, the rising up off the ground. If she weren't being held down, the resistance could be such that she would rise up off the floor and go to the ceiling.
There's a lot
Oh,
of
Our
growling.
Father. That's the guy praying in the background, I hear.
Yeah.
Because you are the prince of cursed homicides, master of the most evil actions, the teacher of heretics, the inventor of all obscenity.
Huh.
Yeah.
Go out, therefore, impious one. Now we're heading in.
Yeah. That's like most of the video. It's not the most thrilling. I
Mm.
mean, but
No, but within the
it was
context, that's
kinda
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, I'll post it. It'll be on the website. It's all up on YouTube if you want to watch it. I'll leave that up
it's
to
kind
the
of just
to
like
the
people when they
listeners.
get a whole like group going, you know, it's like impressive. Or you're like, oh yeah, they're charismatic. Like
Yeah.
Ted Bundy or whatever. I hate to fucking I hate when people always use him, but like, if you have charisma, you could be a cult leader. You know.
Yeah, so Gina, by the end of it, she says she feels much better. I do have
Right.
a lot of the rest. So this is like quotes, which I didn't really run into anywhere else, but I thought were interesting. Little like
Yeah.
excerpts. So there was one from Roanoke Times, which I thought was funny. And they
And
said,
Roanoke is cool.
yeah, right. I was like, ooh, Roanoke. There was a doctor. He's the one that treated Gina at the Miami Children's Hospital psychiatric ward. Said in the 2020 report that she had been diagnosed with as actively psychotic, but church investigators determined that there was something more involved and decided last October to perform the exorcism. By the end of the exorcism, Gina becomes complacent and obeys the commands of the exorcist. Gina, who had not attended school for several months, has returned to school and says during the broadcast, I am very happy now. Yeah.
I don't know how to feel about all of that. I'm glad she's back in school.
I don't know where this was from, but it said the 2020 episode reveals that Gina said she continued to hear voices that night, like the night after the exorcism, later that day, where Father A went to their home and performed an exorcism on the house to drive the evil spirits out. However, within days of the exorcism, Gina's family and the priests agreed that Gina should be checked into the hospital for additional treatment. And medical professionals there later stated that she still had episodes and symptoms, like was still psychotic, but they were not to the same degree that they had been before the exorcism. However, they deny that the exorcism may have contributed to her episodes seeming to get better.
So she's
but they did,
different from before and after, but it couldn't possibly have been the cause.
yeah, which I thought was interesting. I do appreciate that, like, the
Huh.
church and her family were still monitoring her and encouraged her to seek treatment in a hospital with like
Yes.
medical professionals. I did like
True.
that part of this story. I was like, yes, thank you.
That's tough.
Yeah,
Even today, there's a big gap, like, between the
yeah,
medical science community and the more, like, I don't know, holistic community, I guess. I don't know.
yeah.
Spiritualist. It's
Um,
could be
yeah, I
tough.
did like that it seemed to kind of go back and forth, and they're like,
Hmm.
yeah, we tried an exorcism, and she had been in the hospital multiple times. So, yeah.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
they said Gina responded well to a combination of antipsychotic medications and psychotherapies that they did in the hospital.
Hmm.
Um, what do I have? Oh, these are kind of like little random things. I didn't really know where else to put them. The following year, one of the reverends, Labar, the one that was in that like documentary I talked about, he was appointed chief exorcist of the Archdiocese of New York. Um,
Ooh, that's a
yeah,
title.
right.
Like, I mean,
Uh,
I guess they do have those. Like, we talked a little bit about how long the exorcist title has been around, and like they haven't updated the schooling a lot. I think it was like 1600s, and then like 300 years
yeah, it's
later,
been
they
like
were
the
like, we
same.
should probably update it. And
Yeah.
we're like, yeah, probably you should, but
Uh,
they're
for
trying.
like for the controversy kind of surrounding the TV episode. Many
Hmm.
Catholic Church members viewed the TV special as exploitative and misleading,
Mm.
and promoted the illusion that complicated emotional disorders or mental illness can be treated with rituals. Uh, which
Okay,
I
I
don't know.
guess.
They do end the episode saying that she had been evaluated and sought treatment and was on medication and being monitored by doctors and all that kind of stuff. So,
Sure.
yeah, I don't know. It's not like it was they didn't talk about that kind of stuff too. It wasn't just, oh, the exorcism cured her and life is amazing now.
Rarely are answers that simple, I should say.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Oh, it was a cure-all. You're like, no, those don't exist. That's why people
Right.
always try to sell them.
Yeah. Oh my god,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. It's snake
Uh
oil.
what is it from Sweeney Todd? Oh, frick, what's his name?
Ooh.
Oh, I can't remember his name. Miracle Elixir. It'll do the fixer.
There's other
Oh,
people in that show that have
it's
names, like, I don't know.
damn it. I love that movie. Fuck. I'll remember it. I'll remember it as soon as I wake up tomorrow morning. Uh,
That's the worst. It's the same as going back on a conversation and being like, I could have said this.
yeah,
I mean,
just comes
you're
through
going
when
back
you're.
editing something or whatever. You're like, God damn it. I should
It
have
would have been.
said this.
Yeah, it would have been so much more funny.
But,
Uh,
sometimes when you're editing and then you say something and then your previous self, it says it 2 seconds later and you're like, yeah, I'm consistent.
yeah.
Because sometimes that happens.
All the time, especially if it's been like a week in between recording
Oh,
and editing the
yeah.
episode, and you're just like hearing it, and you're like, oh, I forgot about this part, and then you say the exact same thing.
Your
Just like,
genuine
ah,
reaction is the
yeah,
exact same as it was a week
perfect.
ago. Yeah.
You're just like,
I
ah,
love it.
I am true to myself on this podcast.
Oh my god. Or if I say something, make a joke like 2 seconds before the freaking host makes it on another podcast, I'm like, yes, my week is
Yeah,
made. I
nice.
got there first, we think alike, and you're funny. Oh my god.
Oh, here, I should actually, I can send you. I will message you. Here's the link if you want to watch the exorcism. You can see Gina.
The
Um
1973 movie?
no,
Oh,
no.
no, The Exorcism of Your Girl. Okay.
Yeah. From newsweek.com, They had some stuff as well, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Oh,
They said that televising this was indefensible, according to Reverend Richard McBrain.
pardon me.
He was
Okay.
chairman of theology department at the University of Notre Dame. He said, quote, to sprinkle holy water over serious and complex problems is to trivialize them and ensure that they continue. And others questioned the
Okay.
church's judgment in allowing a young girl identified only as Gina, who had been hospitalized for psychotic behavior, to become grist for a lurid tabloid-style news show.
What?
Um,
Grist? I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I've
Like,
I don't
the only reference I have to
GRIST
that is
grist.
we had a sawmill and a grist mill at King's Landing. And
You
that's
like a
absolutely the
gristle?
only thing I can think is what grist means. Yeah,
I have
gristle? What?
no idea what grist means. Whatever. Uh, they also
She's a
said
vampire. She's got her decades wrong. I'm sorry.
they said, was she capable of informed consent? From
Okay.
Lisa Cahill, an ethicist at Boston College. ABC producer Rob Wallace says that 2020 obtained releases from Gina and her mother, who her
Hmm.
mother's a Colombian immigrant who sought the church's help after psychotherapy proved ineffective. The ABC producer, however, added that the mother and daughter felt pressure from the church to cooperate. So,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
that means your church is more of a cult, me guessing.
maybe a bit.
Ugh.
um,
Yeah, I
the
don't want it.
ceremony itself seemed at times like more than a gratuitous torment of a deeply disturbed young girl. Strapped to a
Oh,
chair, she barked and babbled gibberish like Sanka Dali and Booga, uh, which I
I'm
can confirm.
sorry.
I did hear
That was
Booga.
gibberish. What? Okay.
Well, Father A pressed across to her face, saying, "You want pain? I'll give you pain." He said, addressing the
What?
supposed demon. It is in the video. I mean, they aren't lying. He did say that. After reading the Roman
Okay.
Catholic rite of exorcism, the priest sent Gina home, but within days she was rehospitalized and given antipsychotic drugs. She was subsequently released, but ABC says won't say where she lives. Dr. Warren Schollinger, Gina's psychiatrist at Miami Children's Hospital before and after the exorcism, said the ceremony was a significant risk to her health, and if part of her delusions is that she's possessed, it might confirm that delusion, he said. So,
Oh,
yeah, you kind of have to be
okay.
careful. I
Yeah.
just have two last.
Delusions can mix with reality. I've heard of people with schizophrenia like kind of learning to use a tool on their phone by taking pictures if they see some sort of like visual hallucination hallucination and then like
Okay.
so say if their phone doesn't capture it they know it's not real, they're just seeing it in their head, right? So the like
Interesting.
can take a picture of it. I thought it was too.
That kind of stuff
Yeah.
would be helpful. I mean, unless you
Yeah.
then are imagining it also on your phone screen, that might not help if it gets that far,
And
but
I can't really speak to that, but yeah, it sounded like a technique that some people had like severe schizophrenia were using.
no,
So I was
that's
like, cool.
awesome that
Yeah.
people can use technology in that way. Like,
Doing some good. Yeah.
yeah, we hear about so much bad with technology. It's nice that like people can use it for good and help
Oh,
them.
yeah, true. But speaking of that, if anyone wants an uplifting episode, the episode of You're Wrong About, that was like, it's called something like, oh, your phone isn't bad, or actually your phone is good. And it's kind of like she has this guest on that makes sort of the argument of how there's books out nowadays that say we have the anxious generation because they have their phones in their hands and they're like, well, like the phones themselves and social media, we thought it was going to be great, but also it's
Yeah.
not super terribly bad. It's just
It's
kind of in
all
the
how you use it.
yeah, it's in
Like,
the middle, and like maybe the things people are getting mad about on their phones and it's giving the younger generations anxiety is like the news of the world. And I was like, yeah, that's probably
yeah.
fair.
You used to only be aware of, for the most
Yeah.
part, I'd say, like what was happening maybe within your town, city, maybe country, that kind of stuff. You
Right.
weren't
It's kind of that community sense of what you
constantly,
need to know. Or
yeah, you
maybe,
weren't
I don't know.
constantly bombarded with the possibility of everything
Yeah.
everywhere all the time. Like,
Everything everywhere all at once. I think it's the
yeah,
guilt that you're supposed to try and feel like you can fix it all at once, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just
right?
so crazy. It's like, no.
Yeah,
I gotta fix them. And that is something I've, heard from Jordan Peterson, even though people do also like not love him, but he's like just kind of like you look in your own closet and fix that kind of mess before you. It's kind of like the same of like, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. It's like just
yeah,
try and fix up your own corner of your own life before you think that you can have a say on what's going on in the rest of the world. And like just in general, I think that's a kind of a good idea. So I'm like, yeah,
yeah. I
I'll
think you
see.
can focus on what you can do, like voting and
Exactly.
that
Things
kind of
within your own
stuff.
community. Like just saying
Yeah.
something on Twitter or whatever, like doesn't help anybody necessarily unless you're
No.
like
And I
trying to
think some of that
fundraise.
other stuff
Yeah,
you need to like block, unfollow,
because it's
I don't know, follow
toxic.
something different.
Yeah,
Yeah. Not to be
yeah,
surrounded by that stuff all the time.
I agree.
Yeah.
But don't turn us off because we will not.
No.
We will be our own honest
Maybe
selves.
maybe we're your escape, and that's wonderful. We love
I
that.
hope so.
We're each other's escape sometimes. So
I
it's
was like, oh my god, give
we're
me the
like, I've
space to
had a shit
record
week. I can't
tonight.
wait to talk to you.
It's been a fucking while. Like, there's a lot of shit
Yeah.
going on. We lost the Stanley Cup finals, but that's
Yeah.
okay. But it's been a week. I don't know what to tell you.
We entered a
Oh my
parallel reality ever since.
god.
Maybe.
Yeah. Everyone on the podcast I listened to was talking about fucking Tom Brady's roast. And I'm just like, I don't know. Our fucking
Oh.
hockey team almost won the Stanley Cup. Like, there's a lot of weird shit going on these days. And like,
Yeah.
depends what realm you're in, that what you're focusing on. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Anyway, I only have a tiny bit more.
I'm enjoying this though. Okay.
Yeah, I thought this one was kind of interesting. It kind of stuck out to me compared to some of the other stories.
They can be a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I have exorcisms continue to occur, obviously. Both good
Nice.
and bad. Both those approved
Okay.
by the church and those not. Like people taking stuff into their own hands, or things being taken too far, even with the church involved, to varying degrees
Yeah.
of success. These can often lead to tragedy when things are taken too far or medical professionals are not present or consulted or that kind of stuff. So, um,
Yeah, I mean, I'm still thinking of like the 1600s when the medical professionals were not that different than the priests.
yeah.
Like, okay. Yeah, let's hope for the
Um,
best.
I did find, I think it was on the
Excuse me.
segment, like the 2020 episode, but it was also in Roanoke Times article I read saying if no scientific explanation for suspected cases of diabolical affliction can be found, church officials search for the four traditional signs of possession: unusual strength, signs of levitation, clairvoyance, and speaking in languages that were never studied.
Those are the four? Really?
Apparently, I
They
didn't know
cited
that. I was like, what? Those are the,
languages,
yeah, the four
strength,
traditional signs of possession: unusual strength, signs of levitation, clairvoyance,
levitation.
and speaking in languages that were never studied. Which I thought was
I
interesting because I never knew there was four signs of possession before.
pedestrian
Pedestrian.
possession. No. Um
You're
no, I
jaywalking
love
here.
that.
Ah! No.
I've literally heard come up a few times this week on podcasts I've been listening to. The whole sleepover sort of game with the light as a feather, stiff as a board.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and maybe I'm not making a clear connection, but it's kind of one of those things that's like maybe mind over matter and stuff, and so it's just maybe interesting when it comes up with some of this other like
Yeah.
possession stuff,
I had
quote
never heard of
unquote.
that until fairly recently, so me and my friends never did that at
Oh,
sleepovers.
me neither.
Um,
Yeah. We're just too
yeah.
tame here in Canada. I didn't do Bloody Mary either.
Oh, we did that. We did Bloody Mary.
Okay.
We had a different one. I can't remember what it was, but it was about
Really?
like it was like circle circle dot dot, I think was part of it.
Ooh.
And something about like X marking the spot. We used to do it
Ooh,
in the
this is
girls'
the younger
change room all
generation's
the time
chant.
because it involved like you like dragging your fingernail fairly hard across each other's backs in like a certain pattern, and then you were supposed to like go to sleep, and in the morning you would wake up and it was basically supposed to be like claw marks on your back, but not in the pattern like that had been drawn on your back the day before.
Okay,
And we
so
used
it's
to do
for
it in the girls' change
everyone.
room, like
Yeah.
uh, before gym or like after gym, whatever, because you had to have your shirt off, and you were basically just like
Right.
clawing the shit out of each other's backs. And you're like, I don't know, we were like 11. Like this is how we spend our
Who's got
time.
nails? Yeah.
Yeah. But I can't remember what it was, but it was like circle, circle, dot, dot. I remember being part of it. And I can't remember
Okay.
the rest of it, but it was like a whole rhyme. And it was like, you did
That's
like,
weird.
I
No,
think you
because
did
I
like
never heard
circle,
of that
circle,
one.
circle, circle, dot, dot. And then, but it would, in the
Yeah.
morning, it was like claw marks. And I actually had a
Cool.
couple of my friends, they came in the next day and they had claw marks on their back and it was there for days before it healed.
Ooh.
Like,
And
yeah.
nowadays I'm like, did you put that there yourself? But at the same
Right?
time, did you
But when you're
not?
but when you're 11, it was like shit.
Oh,
Yeah.
they could tell me, yeah, I put that there, and I'd be like, okay, I fucking 100% believe you. Who would
Yeah.
lie about this crazy shit? Like, why would you?
Um
But
yeah,
I
because it
guess if it's
involved
kind of
doing
hyped
that.
up in your school or whatever, I don't
Yeah, you had to do that and then you had to lay down on the like
know.
cold tile floor of and
This seems
stuff.
light as a feather, stiff as a board shit. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
You like
I'll see
raise
if
them
I can
up.
figure out what it is cuz I'm sure maybe I'm mixing two things together or something, but yeah,
Mm.
it's interesting.
I mean, definitely there we
Yeah.
all know, like the Bloody Mary one's the one you say in the mirror, and it's kind of like the
Yeah.
Candyman, and you're like, don't say it
Yeah.
too many times, like Beetlejuice, and but yeah, exact at the same time, like yeah, I'm like I don't want to mess around with these things and figure out which one conjures which.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm not inviting no demon possession. No, thank you.
I got enough crap in my life, and it's just
Yeah.
regular, normal people stress.
Yeah, I don't need to add demonic possession to this.
I'm like,
Uh,
I survived going to the dentist today and taking my daughter to the oral surgeon,
yeah.
and that deserves a congratulations because it was hard.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. All right, was that the end of your
Yeah.
segmente?
That's
Oh,
all she wrote.
very good.
And by she I mean me. That's all she wrote.
I've
I
always
could
loved
read
that
you my
expression. That's all
sources.
she wrote. Yeah.
Uh,
What did you say? Sources?
oh, I
Sorry.
said I said unless you want me to read you my sources, like verbatim.
The only time I enjoy people reading sources is when they read it. I can't remember if it's drinking the Kool-Aid or maybe night classy, but sometimes I've heard people read it at the beginning of their segment, and it gives you a little teaser as to what this segment's going to be about. And that's the only
Oh,
time I'm
okay.
like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Because you're
Yeah.
like, this is how Chupacabra is found. And you're like, I think I know what this is going to be about. No, I don't know.
Yeah. We will be back for part 2.
All right, give me 2 minutes. That was very good, by the way.
Thanks.
Enjoy. All right. Okay, so welcome back to part 2. Do we know when this one is airing? I have no idea.
Um,
It's July. I know that.
yeah, let me see. This one should be July 12th.
Okay, so we're like mid-month.
Yeah, we're
All right.
actually right now still sitting at 2 weeks ahead, which is awesome. We achieved our goal of recording like
Shh,
2 weeks ahead.
sort of. And then I told you that I was like, I don't know what happened to the one for Patreon.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh my
look.
god. Um, me too. Yeah, I don't know. We've been changing a lot of things with the podcast, the hosting
Yeah.
site, and I feel like I've had a lot going on also. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um, even as we speak, I was complaining to Kelsey that we I had to take my kid to get her wisdom teeth out today, so she's much less smart. No, but it was a hassle because they were like, "You didn't give us the exact estimate from the insurance company," and I was like, "Oh my god, why do I have to do this?
Yeah.
Nightmare, nightmare." uh, all right. This is called the Watsika Wonder. It's kind of fun.
Okay.
Consideration.
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
It's old.
It's old.
As my intro mentions, some cases of possession will date as far back as like the Salem witch trials in the late
Damn.
1600s. Yeah,
Okay. That's real
1690s.
old.
That's old.
That's old as dirt.
Old as dirt. Nice. And maybe in this case, we'll talk about a little town in Illinois in the late 1800s. In this case,
A whole town? Does the town get
well,
possessed?
no.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Did that make it sound too exciting?
maybe.
uh, it was just a segue from the Salem witch trials to this
Oh,
case. All right. So, yeah, it's called the Watsika Wonder because of the town name, I'm going to call it. I don't think you can call it a city. And
okay.
yeah. Watsika lies just about 63 kilometers north of Champaign, which apparently is about halfway betwixt there and Chicago. So, Champaign and Chicago, somewhere in the middle. That's what I'm
Okay.
going with. I thought that sounded poetic. And of course, it's the 1800s, so the population at the time was roughly 5,000, not very much.
Okay. Decent sized town, though.
I think so, but at the same time, it was like they emphasized that like you didn't necessarily know everyone, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's harder to get around.
Yeah, like I think yeah, you don't necessarily have the time for socializing when you're all farming and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, unless it's like church. Church is probably when you socialize the most, I guess, back then.
Yeah. And like, oh my god, me taking one day off to like get my kid to the oral surgeon felt like a whole village's work. I don't know. Like just between me and like Pat doing stuff. Like I got her home and then he went out and got the prescriptions and I was like, God, I don't know how single parents do it sometimes, man. Like I'm just exhausted. Like ugh. Kudos to my mom and all the other single parents out there.
Yeah.
All right, so Mary. Oh, uh, So her Mary Laurency Venom, who lived in Watsika, as we were talking about, she lived with her parents, Lorinda and Thomas Jefferson Venom.
Venom.
So
I like the last name.
their last name is Venom. It's like
Venom.
Vennum. It
Oh.
is. So I kept trying to write vellum or whatever that word is for that like kind of thin paper, but
Oh, I just thought Venom. Tom Hardy.
well, that is exactly how it sounds, so you are
Yeah.
correct. But so Mary was born April 16th, 1864, and she was kind of lucky to have a happy, healthy childhood. I mean, I guess that day and age, but especially after the couple, like her parents lost several of her siblings when they were very young,
Oh,
such
okay.
as Laura and Bertie, who were siblings that died before she was even born.
That would be hard.
um,
Yeah.
there's like maybe some expectations. Yeah, I don't know. When she was 13, she began to have these like strange symptoms and unexplained occurrences, and they started with severe stomach pains and issues like that, and ramped up to include trances, and those trances were usually times when she said she saw spirits, dead people,
Okay.
and the like.
Okay. Interesting.
I know. It's not just IBS. What is it?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I know, but it's so like, was it?
There's a devil in my tummy.
Literally, any time anyone has an expert on a pod and they're talking about like, we did this, and you figure out what personality you are with that, and then you start eating like that, and then amazing. And I'm like, probably though.
Really?
But sometimes they'll like introduce you to ideas you don't know, and they're like, I don't know. If you have this like blood type or personality type, then you should do this, and this, and like and whatnot. And you're like, yeah, maybe.
Weird.
Uh so there were a few things that she could perceive that others could not. Almost like a clairvoyance. People could like they would say such as someone pointing to a passage in a book and her knowing it even if she couldn't see it. Like
Oh,
she's
that's creepy.
blindfolded and she can point to a passage and then read it somehow. Like a lot of that kind of stuff, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't even know how to describe it. Um, the trances and the oddness were taking their toll on the Venom's daughter, who they referred to as Laurency or Rancy. So she didn't go by Mary, which was her first name, and that's thankful because that would be confusing. But she goes by Laurency or Rancy, which is also honestly a little bit weird.
Yeah, I mean it fits. Like if somebody's gonna be like some weird fortune teller possessed person, they don't have the name Mary. It's a Rancy.
I'm gonna go by my middle name, yeah. Especially if your
Yeah.
middle name is like super unique.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm Kelsey Delight Johnson.
Oh.
No. Somebody had that middle name the other day and they were like, is that real? And the people were like, yeah. Like, that's fucked up, but so cool. All right. So, lesson everybody give your kids cool middle names.
Yeah.
Um,
And then they could be like, that's my middle name. And they'll be like, really? And they'll be like, there's my ID. Bam.
kind of wish I thought of something cooler than my own name as my kid's middle name. Kind of like the way you do like a family name as a, like a middle
Yeah.
name, you know. Anywho's it. So Mary Laurency Venom, or Laurency or Rancy as they referred to her, was so unwell they were worried that they would need to commit her. She was experiencing severe mental unwellness, like
Female hysteria.
I'm like they did not have a diagnosis, you know that, but
Yeah.
like it was affecting her day-to-day life, her
Yeah.
her mental wellness. I don't know. They thought they'd have to commit her, as they did a lot of people then. So yeah, that's a big concern, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Not only was she seeing spirits anymore, it had apparently escalated. And one newspaper noted that, quote, she could put her hand on a book and without seeing it would point to any letter that was named. These spells would last sometimes an hour or two. Then she became quite rational and appeared as well as ever. This continued until sometime in January last, when one of those trances she declared that she was an old German woman named Katrina, but this illusion soon vanished and she became Mary Roth, a young lady who died 12 years ago.
Oh. So, like, is she communicating with dead people then? Like, she's. What do they call that? Um,
Uh,
like,
oh yeah, you mean there's like a real term for it, yeah. Like, ew. She
I
does
just had
see
it. I almost said it, and instead I said she's communicating with dead people, and now I can't think of the word that I meant to say in the first place.
communing with spirits. Okay.
She's like,
A medium?
sort of,
No.
yeah.
No, because now I'm thinking about like
Long Island medium.
D&D movie and how they're like they could resurrect sometimes the dead corpse to ask them like 3 questions. So like, by the way, and they ask the one guy 2 questions and he's like, I'm not done yet. Ask me one more. I'll just be sitting here forever.
Yeah, that sucks.
Ah, it's got to be something like that. So
Yeah.
to unpack this visit a bit, it was January 31st of 1878, a few months after she'd started having problems, and at the time a spiritist slash physician named E.W. Stevens was visiting the girl. So they notice she becomes sullen and curled up in her chair and starts calling her mother Old Granny.
Burn. Sick burn.
Right? And refers to her father as Old Black Dick.
What? Are
I
they
think I
black?
only saw that when I accidentally downloaded the whole fucking book he wrote. But I loved it.
Did they
Um
were they black? Sorry, I have to ask.
I no, it doesn't seem so. There's like
I
a
don't think so. Okay.
one newspaper, drawing of like
Uh
Lorancy or whatever, and she looks white. So I don't think so. But
fascinating.
like it's so funny, yeah. Not just Ma and Pa, it's Old Granny and Old Black Dick. And
Sorry,
I could not leave it out once I read that. I will tell you that much.
oh shit.
And I like literally accidentally downloaded the fucking book that E.W. Stevens doctor
I know
wrote, and
sometimes
it's
I
like
open a
from
source.
1890. What?
Shit. Sometimes I open a source and I'm like, oh, this will be great. It looks like some university article. And then I'm just
Yes.
like, oh my god, this is somebody's like fucking thesis. This is like 900 pages. What the shit? And I'm like,
And they're like,
close.
you just downloaded 1 gigabyte or something. You're like, what? I don't know.
I
Not a
was just
gigabyte, but
clicking links on Google.
it was a lot. It downloaded a lot.
No wonder your laptop hates you.
Oh my god, always.
It's like, what are you doing to me? What's this random shit?
Oh god, that's right. I don't know if we're gonna address it, but I was just telling Kelsey how like we had recorded the part on Patreon of recap, rewatch,
Yeah.
react to Baby Reindeer.
We
But
don't know
then
if we
I
can find it anymore.
lost.
We
Yeah,
may have lost
Zencaster.
it.
Like I thought they changed things because I was like, now all the recordings that were all over there are gone.
Yeah,
Like,
we'll
oh my
try and find it. If not, we'll figure something out. If not,
yeah, I felt like a real dumbass. They're like, are you sure it's not over here? I'm like, no.
It's like,
Those things weren't a thing on
Can't
my
you go in
screen.
and find it for me and attach it in an email and fucking send it to me?
It's like, oh, maybe. Okay. Uh, we'll
Anyway.
see. Yeah, if you trust me in technology, it might never happen. Okay, but yes, when she's talking to old Granny and old Black Dick, she wouldn't talk much to Dr. Stevens until he said that he was also a spiritual doctor, not just a physical doctor.
Okay. Okay.
That's when she like opened up to him. And then she admitted who she was, which apparently at the time was not Lorancy inhabiting her own body, but an older German woman, a senior. The doctor was kind of like, and when she started to act a little different and like curl up in her chair and this stuff and look weird, they were like, "You okay, girl?" or
Yeah,
whatever.
because she's 13, right?
Yes, she, I
Okay,
believe,
yeah.
is 13. She's very young. I was just also
Okay.
reading a book where she was 13, so I hope that's the case, but yes. And he's like, "What's your name?" She's like, "Katrina Hogan." And he goes, "Oh, how old?" This reminds me of people talking to toddlers that believe anything.
Yeah.
But how
What's your
old are
favorite
you?
dinosaur?
Yeah. And she says, 63 years old. And where are you from? Well, Germany. And he goes, how long ago? Like, did you come here? And she goes, 3 days. And how did you come? And she says, through the air.
As one does in, what is it, the 1800s when air travel was not existent, right?
1878. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, that
I
makes no
came through
sense.
the
It's
air.
creepy as fuck.
They flung me in a trebuchet.
Yeah. And he goes, how long will you stay? And she says, 3 weeks. But although those answers were all succinct and everything, she either didn't stay or was lying or whatever, replaced. And the next time they ask her
Okay.
who she really was, she says, I'm not really a girl. I'm a boy named Willie. And so sorry. I keep waiting. I love seeing your reaction.
Like, oh.
um, she said Willie, and they said Willie, like Willie who? And he's like, my dad's Peter Canning, and I left home, changed my name, and then he ended up dying, and he was back here now because, quote, he wanted to be. So I think he had some unfinished business because of the way he
Okay.
left home. Yeah, it was implied that he, like, maybe needed to make up with his dad or something along those lines, I would say. But definitely a different story than her origin
Yeah.
story. I don't know.
Yeah. Sounds so random.
It's like, okay. And eventually Mary, or Florency, I guess we should call her in this body, would take the reins, turn the tables on him, and barraging the doctor with question after question like, what is your name? Where do you live? Are you married? How many children do you have? Boys or girls? What is your occupation? What kind of doctor are you? What brought you here? Have you been to the North Pole, the South Pole, Europe, Australia, Egypt,
What?
Ceylon, Benares, the Sandwich Islands? To which I say, where the fuck are the Sandwich Islands? I
Yes,
need to
take
go
me
there.
there. I fucking love sandwiches.
So much. You have no idea. But like, it went on to support her or this entity's extensive knowledge of geography,
Yeah.
which is odd. If she was just like,
A
a hometown girl that
farmer.
hadn't
Yeah.
met people that were down the street from her, which we'll see later that she had not. Um, in the way that exorcism movies tend to have the possessed turn on the authorities called in to help, she started asking him questions that were more prying, like, well, do you lie, smoke, steal, swear, or drink tea or coffee?
Not
Do
the
you go to
tea.
church? Yeah.
1 lump or 2?
Are you a sinner?
Yeah, that's what
Hell
they want
yeah.
to know. Hell yeah.
Yeah, you're like, that's got to be what she's going for, whether or not she's
Yeah.
invaded or not. But there's some things that make me question. She then repeated the questions to Asa Roth, through the doctor. So this is, well, we'll get to it. I don't think we got to it yet. She then seemed to collapse into another episode before returning to herself. Or maybe Stevens helped bring her back with his laying on hands. That's a D&D reference, sort of. Laying on hands. It's like you can heal a person kind of like you're doing Reiki in real life or something. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he said she held her hands up in the air straight like an iron bar, and that he held his hands up against hers and he healed her with his spiritual science or something like that. Because I was reading it from the real book excerpt and I was like, this is insane.
Yeah.
So since Mary Roth's spirit, who was a daughter of Asa Roth, who had come to the house. Sorry, stop me if this is confusing, because I feel like I'm making it confusing. So since Mary Roth's spirit was called back, for lack of a better way to put it, to Lorenzi's body, they were like, can you just come back to inhabit her a little bit later or tomorrow when we're all here to see this?
Let's schedule your fucking possession.
What time is good for you?
Yeah.
Basically.
Can you
My people
pencil
talk
in
to
a
your people.
psychotic break and meltdown at like noon tomorrow?
They were
Great.
very respectful of her time.
Yeah.
They were like negotiating. I don't know, whoever was talking through Rancie's body, that was like, can you come back to later or maybe tomorrow early in the day? And she was like, I would not want to impose when the family was sleeping or anything, so let's say like 9 a.m. the latest, or the earliest. Good for you.
Damn.
So they did have another meeting, an appearance from Mary Roth in Laurenti's body, supposedly possessing her, because that's what we're talking about. But this is a weird one where it's maybe not a demon, who knows. So she seemed to be Mary not recognizing her own parents, aka the Venoms, but also asking to go home, quote unquote, with the Roths, like the Roth family. And unorthodox as this all was at the time, and probably still now, the parents acquiesced, which was a very difficult word to spell. Thank you, autocorrect. What word has a CQ and a SC in it? Who knows? Everyone wanted to believe it was kind of the best for her for this to happen, and for Mary Roth. Sorry, it is a little confusing, but Mary Roth was going to come through Rancy and said it was the spirit's idea anyway. We'll get into it. So she said, the angels will let me stay until sometime in May. How happy I am. And this
Weird.
is from Mary Roth in Laurenti's body. Like, if you can believe this, she's kind of died and come back to life in this other woman's body, but we'll have to get into how she died, because it's a very complex story, and that's why this one might be very long. Wink wink. We'll see how far we get.
Yeah.
Hang on, I have to plug in my freaking computer even. That's crazy.
Oh, snap.
Well, it's pretty low. Ah. Upon walking home, the girl who was appearing as Rancy Venom, she seemed happy to see her quote unquote older sister and her mother down the street coming out to meet them. She exclaimed, "Here comes Ma and Sister Nervy," which was her childhood nickname for her sister, which was Mary Roth has a sister named Minerva. So they called her Nervy.
Nervy? That's a weird nickname. I mean, I would hate it, but go for it, I guess.
I can't see it for the only Minerva I've ever heard of, which was Minerva McGonagall in frickin'
Yeah.
Hogwarts.
I'd be like, call me Merv. Call me Mer.
Ooh.
Call me Ivy. I don't know.
Yeah, Ivy!
Anything
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, anything other than fucking nervy.
Nervy. Don't love it, but also I don't know what other proper nicknames they had for Minerva at the time.
Yeah.
You just made me think. We just rewatched Interstellar, where he calls his daughter Murph, and I can't remember what that's a nickname for. Who's to say?
Yeah, you're right. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I watched that movie.
I just watched it. I still can't explain all of it. It's one of those ones.
Yeah.
But crazy enough, right? Where you're like, oh, time space continuum, all this bullshit. This one's kind of weird. Like, okay, I can shut the door. Bat just laughed really loud. So she could, Lorancy could seem to recognize some people that she had known as Mary Roth, but she did sometimes have trouble recognizing them right away if they were like really young, and they looked a lot different now because Mary Roth's spirit or soul, she had been dead for like 12 years when she came back, if you can
So
believe it, to
people look different.
inhabit the
Okay.
body.
So if like somebody hadn't, or I guess was older, they like their looks change slower than like people that are young aging. Yeah.
Harder to recognize someone that was closer to her age.
Yeah.
I also thought it was just a little bit interesting how the one, Mary Roth, I guess, died like 3 months before Mary Lorancy was born. It was like a very close, interesting timeline. Yeah, that made me think, is there more into it with the reincarnation aspect? But then why the 3 months overlap? Because how could one inhabit the other if she like died 3 months before? I don't know. I was just like, my brain was like, nope. Clearly I had more important things to be focusing on this week that I did not. Okay, so a little bit more on this one. Yeah, she did recognize people from Mary's past life. She was then surprised when she approached. Okay, so she's like, okay, she's Lorancy, and then she wakes up, she's Mary Roth, basically. The Roths are like, you want to come? And she's like, I want to come home with you, kind of thing. And you're my parents. And like, then they start walking home, and then she's then surprised when she approached her old childhood home, but they continued past that abode to another house. And she was like, oh, why aren't we stopping? We live here. We did. And as Mary and whatnot, Mary Roth, and they're like, no. we moved, but it was after you passed, so we're down here. And they take her to the new house and all that stuff. But it totally gives me vibes of the one you end up covering it. Like, we talked about the reincarnation with the two twins there, with the Jennifer and the whatnot, and when they were they die, and then the two other daughters like reincarnated basically.
Yeah,
it seemed like it. The Jennifer and the whatnot.
Yeah, I can't remember the other girl's name. It's been so long.
But they all had like J's and G's and like that kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
It was maybe a Jennifer and a Jessica or something. But yeah, it gives me vibes of that. And all of a sudden, she had at one point said, so like, yeah, I'm now confused because you know who they are. But Mary Laurency or whatever said, Paul, who was it that used to say, confound it? And he kind of was like laughing, but also smiling and was like, it was me. And it was like, she was calling him Paul, but that was her dad. And he was the one that used to say it. I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
I just can't imagine that be like me, like being like, hey, Eugene. I don't know, like to my dad. Do you know
Yeah.
what happened here? Um, and as Laurency, Mary was accurately able to predict an upcoming illness that was to befall her brother. So this was something where he became seriously ill, I guess, shortly after, and I can't remember much other than Mary in her reincarnated body as Laurency or whatever when the time she was here was like, bro's gonna get sick, and then he like immediately got sick. So they were like, whoa. Not long after that time, Mary says she'll be going back to her spiritual life soon, to paraphrase. And Laurency makes a brief appearance then where she looks around, kind of like wakes up, looks around at the Roth's house, and is like confused, asking, where am I? I've never been here before.
Yeah. I'm in a stranger's house.
I can't even imagine. And I guess they reassure her. And that's just a short time then when Mary resurfaces, she's overtaken by a memory of a childhood accident and asks if they remember that she has a scar on her arm. And when she lifts her sleeve, however, she notes, oh, it's not this arm. Actually, it's the one in the ground. And
Oh, no.
that
That's
is one of the
creepy.
creepiest sentences I've almost ever written or
Not this
copied.
arm. It's the one I left in the ground.
Right? Like she knows she's not really here in her own body. And that's
Oh,
kind
because
of one
that's
of the weirdest
weird.
parts.
Because, like, she's
Yeah.
like, she understands she's dead, but she, like, doesn't at the same
Yes.
time? That's weird. Okay.
It seems so because she'll talk about being with the
Hmm.
spirits and whatnot, but it's
Oh, okay.
such a bizarre case that, like, well, like I said to you, I started writing it and maybe I'm also lazy and late to things, but like also there was a lot to fall into with this one, so you never know. We might have to just cut it off in
Yeah,
the
we'll see.
middle. We'll see. Uh she's taken by the oh yeah, the accident. She pulls off her sleeves and she's like, oh, that's not on this arm, it's in the one on the ground. So creepy. So E.W. Stevens, the guy who wrote the book about the Watsika Wonder case, this case, had a unfortunately deceased daughter that Mary offered to talk to or to even host if he would like to talk to her himself.
Oh, don't love that.
Yeah, he didn't either, I guess, because he did not. Apparently, it was the one thing he was like, no, I'm not cool with that. I was like, I'm good. You don't need to inhabit, like, my daughter's spirit doesn't need to come through your body. Like, I don't know. He wasn't into it, it
Yeah.
seems. I get it. That might be a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
wouldn't
hope
want to
to
do, like,
never
kid or your
know.
parents or something.
It seems very close to home, yeah.
Yeah.
And I just finished a book where somebody was like a Las Vegas performer who imitated Lady Diana. I think I said that. Anyway,
Yeah.
it was weird. Okay, so Mary said, okay, what was it? Yeah, she offered to talk to her host, E.W. Stevens' dead daughter, who was the doctor who was working with her. But he said no. And apparently, if you can believe it, she kind of body hopped to a random guy that was at a bar one night. That sounds
What?
weird, but She like inhabits him and makes a speech as herself, just enough to prove that she was Mary and like could take over other bodies or something. This is apparently what it was all about. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So like she possessed somebody else now and
Yeah, it's like instead of being in what who she was in Laurenti's body. Yeah. And then she's like, no, no, no. I can't just be here. I can also be in you if I want to be. And I'm like, whoa. She just like came out with that at a bar, like a bar trick. Like, I don't know,
creepy.
man. It is a little creepy. And we read that book, and it was that movie after where the behind her eyes, where you're like, oh, you don't want to get too cozy astral projecting with someone because they might
Yeah.
take over your body. Fucked up. So yeah, after that happened, she once left over tea time or supper time to have tea in heaven, quote unquote, quote unquote. And she was like instantly, boom, in a trance. She was like, I'm gonna have some tea. Um, when people asked, she would say that Lorancy was not in the body as well, but also in heaven, having her own lessons and getting ready to be brought back to her earthly body, kind of thing, which is pretty cool.
That's so weird. She's at school right now in heaven.
Her soul is in soul school.
Yeah. How to be a soul.
Aren't you guys, you don't recognize that accreditation?
Yeah. Here's your certificate. You've graduated.
The credits don't transfer over?
Yeah.
um, to the 34-year-old Minerva, who was sister to Lorancy. I guess she said, the angels tell me I'm going to heaven, but I don't know just when. Oh, how I wish you could live here at home with us, as you used to when I was here before. Because she had grown up and married and moved away from her
Hmm.
childhood home, and now she missed her sister. So cute. Um, so yeah, mostly what a lot of this you have to base it on is the book written by the Dr. E.W. Stevens, which W stands for Winchester. So I'm just
Oh,
saying
snap.
he's probably a hunter that's related to Dean. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's like straight from the spiritist's mouth, so to speak. Like, because he wrote the book when he was actually there, but it's also like written for the times, and I
Yeah.
will get to it because I do have a quote.
Oh God.
Oh, God. And obviously, there's something about Mary Roth, so we'll talk about her. So, as we did not know before, Mary had also been experiencing fits since she was an infant, like symptoms and stuff, such as Mary Lorancy had. And she was even known to sometimes cut herself to relieve the pressure, quote unquote, from her head. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a problem. Uh, she was prone to talking in tongues. As soon as she could speak, she spoke of the spirits that she could see. Crazy. And her parents, Dorothy and Asa, were terrified for her. Some was no, some odd skills were impressive, maybe rather than scary, because she could read any book blindfolded by the time she was a teen. Party favors, party skills.
Yeah.
But also, it was rough because sometimes they said as many as like 5 men were needed to hold her down when she had her fits. So it was
Jeez.
rough.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
couldn't be good.
No, it's just imagine how much of a better diagnosis that she would probably get today,
Yeah.
Ugh. Okay, so Eventually, her parents were at a loss. She was sent to an asylum to treat and hopefully cure her. It was, as we can probably guess, unsuccessful, and very sadly, she was dead by the age of 19 in 1865.
Shit.
Yeah. Um, but just as a little hook, perhaps for what might be next week, she then came back after 10 months of visiting friends and family of, I said Rancy, that's not right. Roth. She said that Rancy was all healed and would be actually returning to her physical body. So just hang tight. She said she's just coming right back. And
Just coming back to life.
Maybe that's where I'll leave it. Intermission. Who's coming back?
Oh
Which
my
Mary? The dead one or the one that was alive but having problems?
Oh shit. Yeah. Who's gonna control
Ooh.
the body now? That's
Oh
weird.
yes. It's a war, war of the bodies. No, it's just
Yeah.
such a fascinating case that doesn't necessarily fit the exact mold of most possession cases, but I've also
Yeah.
always found really fascinating. So I don't know.
I did run across one like this and I almost covered
Okay.
it before I settled on my
Ooh.
case, and it was one in frick, what was it? Oh, I can't
Ooh.
remember. It was like
So you
somewhere in
did have
like
to go and like look up a case because sometimes like I
yeah.
just every once in a while you have one kind of in mind when we suggest a topic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, mine I had found on like a listicle. Um
Oh yeah,
and
love a
then
listicle.
but the one I was like some source, it was like some like college paper or something that was written about possession, and
Oh,
it was talking about like people actually ones that have been like properly like studied or like monitored, and they had one. It
ooh,
was kind of like this where it was like a reincarnation type of thing where like this woman got possessed by the spirit of like this different woman that lived in a different city, and like was able
really?
to go with the family and identify like I think it was like 13 or something like distant family members and stuff like
Ooh,
by name, and like
was it
knew
maybe
their
like one of the
history.
ones that like lived in India originally?
I
She was
think
like an
so.
Indian woman.
Yeah. And they
Okay.
figured out that like the girl that was possessing her or something had been killed. Like, and they figured out who murdered her, like, based on this possession case because she remembered getting fucking
So
murdered.
cool slash
I was like,
creepy.
what the hell? And then I tried, I
Yeah.
think I had tried looking up some stuff, and then I was like, this might be like too much. So now I'm happy I didn't do it because then we would have had two very similar cases and it would have been a lot.
That we might have. And honestly,
Yeah.
most of the possession ones are like very, very sad, you must admit, because a lot of times the
Yeah,
person doesn't
that's
come out
why.
of it after the rigorous, things their
Yeah.
body is put
That's
through.
why I was happy with
Whether,
the one I did and
yeah,
found because I was like, oh, like, yeah, there's no updates. I assume it's a happy ending
right.
because at least at that
Oh,
point, like her family and
yeah.
her were getting help and everything. So,
Oh
yeah,
no.
because there are
Especially if it's
some
a more
really,
modern case. Yeah.
yeah, there can be some really bad cases out there.
Oh,
Some of them that we've covered before. So, yeah, but
yes. When I was like looking up stuff, I was like, oh, I totally remember how like exorcism is not a new topic. I mean, we might
no.
have different new things on it nowadays, but we were like, oh yeah, we didn't like revise the rules from 300 years ago when we first started having them. And I was like, oh yeah, I kind of remember like looking that up and stuff. It's so weird. Oh,
Yeah.
we'd
Ooh.
never look at this stuff otherwise.
Yeah. Well,
Ugh,
we
I
will
tell ya.
We do.
Thanks.
What might do a part two Patreon? I don't know. I don't know what the rest will be.
We just know we're happy you're still here, and thank you for listening this far.
Yeah.
I will say my piece, whether it's on a part 2 or not, because I always talk too fucking much, and there was a lot with this case. So
Yeah, I'm
that can always be
interested to hear
fun
the
too.
rest.
Yeah. Talk about a rabbit hole. Oh my god. I was binging this fun show called Wiki Hole when we were on hiatus, and it is
Wiki.
Darcy Carden from The Good Place, who is like
Oh,
Janet. So
yes.
it's like, by the way, what is this, and this? And like guessing things, and like, I don't know. She's
I
amazing.
love
Really good host.
Janet.
Highly
It's
recommend.
so funny. I think my favorite,
Oh, yeah.
one of my favorite parts ever is them trying to reset her and like push the
Oh my
button and her
god.
being like, "No, don't.
No!
I have a child." And it's just like the
How can you do this? I have children.
stock
She's like,
photo.
by the way, yeah, this is
Yeah.
just a setting.
Yeah, it's so funny. She's like, "This isn't real."
It's fucking amazing.
So
She just
funny.
like, oh, honestly, that's why she can do such a good comedic turn in that show, I think, because she's just like,
Yeah,
I feel like
she's
super
just
like
like that.
funny. Yeah, like
Nice.
she's just like
I
bubbly.
don't think I've ever seen her in anything else, which is such a shame because she's so
I
good.
don't know. But I've been listening to We're Here to Help with stupid Jake Johnson from New Girl and his other friend. Um so sometimes they'll be talking about one of his new movies or whatever, and I'm like, okay, that does seem pretty good. Like
Yeah.
well, and if you have to advertise it through a podcast, who fucking cares? But would definitely watch anything with Darcy Carden, with Jake Johnson. Like some of them are just so funny. Everything they're in is just like
Yeah.
amazing. And her podcast is good. They're like, okay, so you know how we get on tangents and stuff. It's called Wiki Hole, and she'll be like, so we started out with blimps and ended up with sharks, and you know, like they're like, how did we get here? And you're like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
nice.
It's
It
amazing.
happens. Yeah, you're like, open this article, now open this. What's the definition of this? And you're like, how'd I get here?
Right? That's literally my research when I have to be like, you don't need to include all of that.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I will bring the rest of this case next week, I guess, because I couldn't fit it in. But
Yeah.
it's a fun one, and that's pretty much it. And then we'll discuss, I guess, theories, whatever.
All right. Sounds good to me. Well then.
Yes. What else are we discussing next week by the time this damn episode comes out 300 years from now?
What did we settle on?
I have something written
Banned
down.
crimes.
I have bad bandits written down now, so I don't even
Bad
know anymore.
No.
Bandits! It was to do with bands, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I'm off my rocker. Boy band crimes.
Shady band dealings, crimes. I don't know.
No, I don't think that'll be too far or hard. I think that should be pretty fun.
Yeah.
But we'll
should
see.
Be something. There's some
Yeah.
sketchy happenings.
All right, so tune in next week where I'll probably touch back on this one where I didn't write enough of my notes in time because this ended up being so long, so many angles, among other things, and we're happy to be back. So catch you next week, I guess. Bye bye.
Yeah, bye.